Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of SPOLITICS Live, joining you here on a very fine Wednesday where there's only one thing to talk about, which is the biggest story in sports, which I'll get to in a moment. As always, want to make sure that I plug my other podcast, Flagrant and Funny, the podcast that I have with Carrie Champion, available Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays on YouTube. You also can get the audio version on iHeart, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We taped a hysterical episode earlier today because I don't know if you guys are familiar or if you know, but my dear friend Carrie Champion is a Laker fan. So you can imagine what she had to say about Bam Adebayo scoring 83 points, surpassing Kobe Bryant last night in the association against the Washington Wizards. Carrie had a lot of spice to her today. And I think in general, if you know any Laker fans in your life, you might need to check in on them to see what's up, because they are not in a good space right now because of Bam's performance. And so I had to deal with one this morning. Make sure you guys check out the pod. It should be out in a couple of hours. Again, it's hysterical because I'm giving Carrie all the business over her Lakers. And because she's salty, she is mad also about, or not mad, but she also came for me about my strong opinions about mayonnaise. That you have to be there. So make sure you guys check that out. All right, let's just get right to it. And as always, while you're here on SPOLITICS Live, make sure you like, subscribe, do all the things. Appreciate your support. Really loving the fact that I have 172,000 followers, but my goal is to get to $200,000. Yes, I want $200,000, but 200,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So y'all got to help us sister out. So make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, and do all the things. All right, let's get to the story of the day. That is Bam Adebayo, who dropped 83 points, as I said. And listen, I was at home doing some work, and I'm paying attention to social media. And I don't know if it happened for other people like this. I have a feeling that it did, because let's be honest, unless there were gambling interests at stake, I don't know why you would have been watching Miami and the Wizards. Wizards are terrible. Miami's like a borderline type of play-in game type of team, if that. I feel like I'm being a little bit generous there. And so there was no real reason for most basketball fans, not from Miami and or DC, to be watching that game. But I was on social media, and then I saw, they said, hey, Bam's got X amount of points. I forget what he had through like 3 quarters. And so I immediately turned to the game. And, of course, because I want to see history like everybody else. So I watched, I would say, a pretty good bit of the 4th quarter, a little bit late in the 3rd. So about a quarter and a half. Let's just give me a quarter and a half is when I watched it. And this is not completely uncommon in sports. A lot of time, people, when there's some kind of sports happening historically going on, they might join it late. Like, hey, did you hear such and such has a no-hitter? What does everybody do? Turn to the channel. So it is what it is. All right. So I see everything that transpired in the 4th quarter, quarter and a half or whatever. And so even though, yes, there were quite a bit of fouls in the 4th quarter, everybody knows what it was. As he got closer to beating Kobe's record, I'm like, as this is going, I'm thinking, hey, I hope he goes for it. Because what I didn't want to happen, and maybe this is just me, is what I didn't want to happen is what happened when Klay Thompson, y'all remember when Klay Thompson had that 60 points on 11 dribbles? And the Warriors, I don't even remember who they were playing, but they was beating them down. And Klay did not play the entire 4th quarter. And I was like, man, I wanted Steve Kerr to allow him to go for it. And so I'm in because the Heat are clearly going to go for it. And I'm happy with this. I like to see records fall. I like to see records get made, both of the things. That's what I thought this thing was about. So imagine after this game is over with, and all of a sudden, I go to social media and I'm thinking everybody, we on one page, and everybody's going to say, hey, this was a phenomenal performance. Bam Adebayo. You could have given people 10,000 guesses about who would have been the person most likely to break Kobe's record. And even though it's not Kobe's record, we know Wilt Chamberlain has the most points scored in a single NBA game. He has 100. But for modern basketball, Kobe dropped that 81 against the Raptors 20 years ago. It was 20 years to the date in this past January. And I think I could have given y'all 100 guesses, and you never would have said Bam Adebayo is going to be the one who dropped 83 points. So just by that alone, it's like Bam Adebayo of all the people would never have seen that coming. And so it happens. And I'm thinking sports fans will be elated to see history. We got a lot going on in this nation right now. I'm thinking we will all come together to make sure that we are on one accord and to sing brilliant, beautiful basketball. Well, not always beautiful, but at least somebody doing something brilliant and historic. That is not what I saw. I saw a whole lot of people, much like right now, I'm seeing in this chat, that were hating on this from the time the clock struck zero. Y'all wasn't even moved by the fact that Bam Adebayo hugged his mama, his lady, Asia Wilson, who is the best basketball player in the world, for the W. Like, you guys didn't even care about any of the aesthetics. Bam Adebayo grew up in a trailer park, and if you would have ever told him one day he would not only be an Olympic gold medalist, but he would be somebody who scored more points than Kobe in a single NBA game, he himself would not have believed it. But yes, you are correct. Expose the manosphere. Kobe stands made this totally unbearable. It wasn't just them, because everybody in the chat expressing their opinion. You guys are not all Kobe stands. You like Kobe, or maybe you don't like Kobe. Some of you are just haters. I mean, I'm just gonna say what it is. I don't know. When did we get to the point in sports where we are shitting on somebody scoring 83 points in a professional basketball game? When did that happen? Have we lost our joy? Have we lost the whole reason we even love sports? It's to see cool shit happen. Cool shit happen, and all anybody can talk about is how they couldn't stand it. What? What? When did we become this society? Has social media turned us into some cornballs to the point where we cannot appreciate 83 points? Look, I get it. The Wizards are clearly tanking. I mean, has anybody seen Anthony Davis? Where is he? He might be somewhere on U Street getting some Mambo sauce. I have not seen Anthony Davis. Did he ever report to the Wizards? Like, where is I have no idea. I know Trae Young has played like 10 minutes with this team. So we know what this is, right? But all that being said, the Wizards, they face 5 billion opponents throughout the season. It's not 5 billion, but y'all know. And if it was that easy to just drop 83 points on an NBA team, somebody would have done it already, or somebody would have already done it to the Wizards. But that's not what happened. That is not what happened. This man on this night dropped 83 points. And look, I'm sorry. I'm just going to be impressed with the fact, knowing how difficult it is to play in the NBA, I'm going to be impressed. And you guys can talk about no defense and all this other things. The worst NBA player in the league is better than 90% of the basketball players in the world. So why not celebrate it? Why not celebrate it? Why not say, you know what? Bam, do you, Bam. Make the city of Miami proud. This is the most relevant thing that will happen to Miami this year. To the basketball team I'm talking about. It's like, why can't you guys learn to celebrate something? Must we automatically put on the hater coat every time? What? And if you think I'm exaggerating, and listen, while I do think NBA fans sometimes it feels like nobody hates the NBA more than NBA fans. But it wasn't just NBA fans. It was people who belong to the National Basketball Association. Here was Ime Udoka when asked about Bam's 83-point game.
I don't know if you saw that Bam Adebayo had 83 points tonight. I'm sure you know Bam. What are your thoughts on that and such a historic night?
Yeah, I mean, first thing you think is how, because of, not because of him, but because of the way he plays, And I saw only made 6 threes, but 40 free throws or something like that. Tells the story right there. And the Washington Wizards.
You guys were...
I mean, damn, Ime. See, I could make a real, you know what? I'm trying to be a Christian today. So I'm not going to even say what first came to my mind when I heard that hate. Oh my God. But I'm sure what I was thinking, y'all was thinking too. So anyway, that's just one example. Then you had Tim McMahon, who is a sports journalist, saying this.
But man, this was a hilarious exhibition of hideous basketball against the Washington, no, not the Generals, the Lizards, my bad. I don't want to disrespect them. The Lizards, the blatantly tanking, deserve to be humiliated Washington Lizards. But goodness sakes, I mean, I get it. Bam's your guy. He's got a chance to chase some history. But you're up 20-something, intentionally fouling to extend the game with minutes left. You are he's jacking up threes while being triple teamed. I mean, it honestly was just awful, hideous, disgusting basketball down the stretch that I admit I was cracking up laughing while watching, but I never, ever, 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 ever want to hear about heat culture and professionalism and all that crap again, because that was the most blatant stat chasing I've ever seen.
So in describing an 83-point game, and everybody is entitled to their opinion, the words disgusting and unprofessional are used. Guys, have we totally abandoned, missed, and kicked the plot? 83 points in an NBA game. What the hell are you people impressed by? I mean, I don't get it. But the Haterade was everywhere.
That's what the Wizards is tanking. The nigga shot 43 free throws. The fuck is, what are we talking about here? Wow. He shot 43 free throws. Duh. You should have 81. Fuck is your 83 or whatever it is. This is not a real stat. This is not Michael Jordan 66. This ain't even, and don't get me wrong, Kobe with the 81, I'm not saying, I give him credit, but even that game, he shot all the shots. So if you watch that Kobe 81 game, I was sitting there so you're not gonna pass to nobody. I'm a Kobe fan, but I'm like, come on, bro. It just got to the point where the crowd seen he had 60, then 70, and they just kept shooting. It wasn't within the real basketball game to me.
All right, I gotta give Cam, what was my man's name from the Chappelle skit? That is, Cam really channeled his inner Buck Nasty in the sense of this is when you know you got high level hate. Not just regular hate, but you got high level elite hate. That man managed to not only hate on Bam, but he hated on Kobe at the same damn time in his game, saying, so Bam's game is trash and Kobe was too selfish. Guys, if you score 80 points in a basketball game, you're damn right you had to be selfish. That's the beauty of watching it. Gad, just see what you can do. So I'm not ever discrediting Kobe because I done seen Kobe score 50, 60 a few times within a real game. Not saying that game for 81 wasn't real, but you shoot 43 free throws on the Wizards. They tanking. Anthony Davis ain't even show up after he got traded. He said, I'm hurt for the rest of the season, diagnosed himself. I don't know if Trae Young even got in the motherfucking court yet since he's been there. I don't know what the Wizards are doing. Mo, what I'd advise you is this. Do not go back and watch that game. You won't be able to get that time back
back in your life. Go watch ESPN. That'll be 2 hours of your life that has been wasted that you cannot get back.
I mean, it's like Cam had the hater chopper and was like, "Grrr, all y'all can get it." Like, what? The hater chopper was out. And so now, okay, let's just go through the degrees of this. So it was 83, but it wasn't a pretty 83. Like we see 80 all the time. What is an 83 supposed to look like? Why don't y'all tell me? In today's modern NBA game, what is an 83-point game supposed to look like? I mean, y'all want all threes? Y'all want some dunks? What would y'all like? How would you like this an 80-point game to be packaged to you? Now, I understand, let's say if you said that Michael Jordan's 63 points against the Celtics in the playoffs was more impressive than what Bam did, because that is totally true. More impressive because of the stakes. This is a playoff game. This is the Celtics of that time. Totally get it. I'm not saying that Bam's 83-point game belongs in the Louvre, but damn it, it don't belong in the trash bin. It does not belong in the trash bin, which is where y'all trying to put it. It is impressive regardless of the other factors. Crappy team, nothing to play for. I do not care. It is still impressive for someone to be able to do this. And I am just disappointed in Sports Nation everywhere that you guys, not you all, not everybody, because I know the first thing people ask, especially Black people, who is y'all? Not everybody. But what I am saying is that how have we gotten to the point where we can't appreciate greatness anymore? And so here's sort of my $2 on this, not just 5 cents. I think you all would probably not have as much complaints about the actual game as in the style, the lack of style points that you're giving Bam Adebayo. Or is it Adebayo? Adebayo? All right. Bam. I'm just going to keep it to Bam. Is that, listen, it's not going to win any style awards, and I get that. But I think the big reason that people are leaning towards the hate in this game is because of who did it. It's not the what, it's the who that bothers people. And especially if you're a Kobe fan. Because when you think about any of his records that become broken, like if LeBron surpasses him for anything, or if this were Kevin Durant, then you guys would probably feel the same, or not feel the same, excuse me. Like if this were prime James Harden, if this were Steph Curry, if this, were Giannis, if this were Victor Wembanyama, then it feels like, oh, okay, this is a proper tribute to Kobe, because that's just who this is really about. This ain't even about Wilt Chamberlain. This is about Kobe Bryant. And in a lot of people's minds, because it was not somebody who was on the same tier as Kobe Bryant in their eyes, then that makes this extra illegitimate because of the player was. Keep in mind, Bam, we ain't talking about, well, I don't even want to say a player's name because y'all, then that don't sound disrespectful. So I don't want to do that. But Bam is Miami's franchise player. He's a two-way player, one of the best in the NBA. He's probably, he's definitely top 5 at his position. Okay, top 10. Let's just say maybe not top 10, right? Y'all act like Bam is straight out of LA Fitness. Like, that's what bothers you all, is that there are just some people who feel like when it comes to breaking these kind of historic records, they should only be broken by a certain caliber of talent. And I think that's what is bothering a lot of people. But here's the thing, and I'm glad he posted this. And by the way, everybody wasn't hating. Before I get to this other part of it, everybody was not hating. And in fact, there were quite a few players. Giannis was one. You saw the activity on social media. A lot of the players were tweeting Bam and saying, that's dope. That's what's up. This and that. I thought what Jeff Teague and his crew had to say was interesting because it's not just because they agree with me, but because I think this is the proper perspective.
Shit off.
I was laughing. People were so upset about him breaking it, Kobe record yesterday.
Why though?
Because they're weird, bro.
So they Kobe fans.
They're fucking
bro.
weird. That's why. I don't care.
Kobe.
He scored 83 points in a game. Why are y'all not happy about that? Yeah. It was unethical. They was fouling. Shut the fuck up. Y'all ruin everything, man.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck.
You got love over here, man.
You got nothing but love.
For
83.
sure, bro.
Nigga to score 80 in a game, like a pickup game, a men's game, is damn near impossible.
Impossible. Yeah.
For you to get 83 in the NBA game against number 1, number 2 picks and all type of
all McDonald's All-Americans.
Yes,
all
Nigga, you
best
cold.
niggas overseas.
You cold as fuck.
Because here's the thing. You all are saying, and that's the other thing, is that Bam's 83 points has now become an unintentional tipping point. Now, as it was, there was all this talk in the league about tanking and how, given how the NBA draft is set up, we all know how it works. The worse you are, the more ping pong balls you get a better shot at getting a top 5, number 1 pick, whatever it may be. And so now people are saying, hey, this is why the NBA really needs to do something about tanking, because you're going to have teams that have nights like the Wizards and maybe some mythical record that's been on the books forever will wind up getting broken, like 100-point and 80-point games are just breaking out everywhere. As I said earlier on this live, the Wizards play multiple times a week. That's a lot of players, a lot of really good players that they play. Everybody ain't dropping 80. So if you all think this is so manufactured and it's so easy and it is such a statement about the NBA's lack of whatever, how come everybody can't do it? If it's just that easy to do, if you could drop any player against the Wizards and they can just drop 80 on them, then why doesn't everybody do it? If it's that damn easy, because it's not. It's not easy. And because this game has become such a flashpoint, could this be the thing that winds up spurning the NBA or, really lighting a fire under their bum to do something about tanking, which would be crazy. Like, wow, I thought we were supposed to be celebrating the sort of excellence of this and then kind of just moving on. Instead, it's become the story, kind of the story of one of the big stories of the season is that the wrong player dropped 83 points in a game that people didn't find aesthetically pleasing enough. So now it's an indictment on the NBA. And, just in general, one thing that I know is nobody hates the NBA more than NBA fans. And I'm saying that sort of jokingly, but I think there's a lot of truth to it. Every league is a prisoner to their history in some kind of way. But I think some leagues are better or worse than others. The NBA is the worst when it comes to this. Everybody's living in the past, or a good percentage of people are living in the past. Maybe you can blame my generation since I'm Generation X, and it's too many people living in the past. Michael Jordan still the poster on the wall, don't want to move on from 80s and 90s basketball. And because of that, there is this nostalgia that winds up being the enemy. Instead of nostalgia just being sort of a reference point or something we can look back at fondly. Nostalgia, no league has nostalgia weaponized against them as much as the NBA does. By fans, by pundits, by former players. Nobody does this. I mean, sure, in the NFL from time to time, you hear players railing about how they mad because ain't nobody playing in leather helmets anymore. Mostly they're mad because they feel like the game is not as physical. They wish they could go back to the days when people got clothesline. Well, it's not that kind of league anymore. And so, yeah, you see some of that in the NFL, but not to this degree. Generally speaking, former players speak pretty fondly about the game. And even as many have noted, when you start comparing, say, just in general, how some of the pregame shows are. Pregame shows for the NFL, they are always team NFL. They're always protecting the shield. They're always selling the NBA NFL brand. And I'm not saying that this is purposeful, but I think it's in part because of their respect for the game. But in the NBA, it's totally different. It's like the fans nitpick everything. History is just something that they cannot get past. And even when it comes to commentary about the NBA, and I'm not going to sit up here and just put this on Inside the NBA because I don't think it's on them. I can show you plenty of examples across the sports media spectrum in which you have people who are supposed to love the NBA. And when I say love the NBA, that doesn't mean you have to blindly cape for what the NBA is. I think constructive criticism is necessary, but the degree in which the NBA is held hostage by history and nostalgia is something that is very specific to the NBA. And much of the conversation throughout the course of the NBA season is about everything the NBA isn't. Ain't no defense. Players ain't tough enough. The officiating sucks. It's rigged. Blah, 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 blah. Like, do y'all ever have anything nice to say about the NBA? You claim to love basketball, but I cannot tell. I seriously can't tell. And so it's like, what? To the point where 83 points happen and all people can do is shit talk 83 points. And oh, by the way, to this nostalgia that we're prisoner of. Now, the big thing about Wilt, while there has been, there's some Wilt Chamberlain truthers. He had 100 points, and a lot of people, some have theorized, there's been the conspiracy theory that has floated that did Wilt really score 100 points? And people, certainly last night, they were bringing to the surface a term I'd never heard before: sports ethics. Or no, not sports ethic, ethical basketball. I have to be honest, I am not familiar with ethical basketball. What is ethical basketball? It sounds like a medical condition. Hey, I came down with that ethical basketball. That's what it sounds like. And listen, I get it. Not that I had any kind of outstanding, athletic career. I was an athlete in high school. That's where the dream died. Pretty good at that point. And so I get that there is sportsmanship in a certain way that the game is supposed to be played. And that there are certain official and unofficial sports rules people shouldn't violate, especially in the spirit of having competition that is with integrity. But a lot of y'all was sounding like you basically, that vice principal energy was strong in a lot of y'all after watching this game. Well, they fouled them and this and that. Y'all were really sounding like the people, or that you used to be the kids that back in school, when the teacher left the room, left you in charge. And when the teacher asked, was everybody good? You was telling on people. A lot of y'all sounded like that. Just that vice principal, I'm the op, I'm a fed, I'm a teacher's pet, hall monitor ass energy. It's like, it's not ethical basketball, guys. All right, okay, not ethical. So I was super glad my former colleague and friend, Pablo Torre. If you haven't listened to his amazing podcast, Pablo Torre Found Out, please do listen to it. He made sure that he dropped snippets from a previous episode of his where he looked into the Wilt Chamberlain game. And he had a historian, and he played some old footage, or I should say old audio, because there is no footage of Wilt's game, in which the person defending Wilt talked about how that game turned into a spectacle.
They called a foul against Imhoff that Imhoff did not think was a foul.
And he started backing in, and I held my position, and Willie Smith called me for a foul, and I said, Willie, I'm allowed a position. And I said, why don't you give the guy 100 points, we'll all go home.
145 to 126. Darryl Imhoff fouled him. He has 83.
And the game took on, Darryl would call it a farce.
My word is a farce. It was a farce of a game. Elgin Baylor scored 60 points against us in the Garden. I mean, that was a legitimate, great performance. But it wasn't done the way that one was done. And that's what makes that a farce. I don't see it as one of the great games ever, and I think the 100-point game is totally out of context.
This is where I need to observe that everybody who's been trying to undermine Wilt's record by asking if it really happened has been asking the wrong question. Because what Darryl Imhoff is arguing here as one of the principles is not that the 100-point game never took place. What Darryl is arguing is that compared to other great performances, Wilt's 100 was abnormal and ultimately illegitimate.
Wow. So that history that everyone loves so much, because I always say this in general, is that, we think everything new is under the sun, or there is, we think it all has happened before. I know I butchered that idiom, but it's all happened before is the point. There's nothing new under the sun. And so there are times in sports, especially when it comes to record, where people do turn it into more of a spectacle, meaning that there's decisions made, much like when Michael Strahan could have, when he broke the single season sack record, right? And Brett Favre basically decided to just fall down for him so he could get the sack. And so these things have happened. When I played that clip earlier from the journalist Tim McMahon, and he called this the worst statistical chase that he's ever seen, he mentioned right after that, remember when Ricky Davis, this was hilarious, when Ricky Davis wanted a triple-double and he threw it up against the backboard so he could get another rebound. He did something crazy just because he wanted to get a triple-double. He knew in his career, I don't think he'd ever had one. And so, yeah, he did it. And while some people are like, that's cheap, that is terrible, excuse me, how uncompetitive, it's all right. I mean, I guess one play, I mean, I don't know. He didn't earn it the real way. I mean, I thought a couple years ago when or the season before last, when Saquon Barkley had an opportunity to, go for setting the single season rushing record, that he should have gone for it. The Eagles should have let him go for it. Now, they won the Super Bowl that year, because my argument was man, if he doesn't go for this and they don't win the Super Bowl, it would feel like a bit of a net negative. You got the best team in the NFL, and then all of a sudden, he doesn't get the record. It's then you really feel like you leave empty-handed. And y'all, I see y'all didn't like the Ricky Davis thing. You know why I didn't care? This is why I didn't care about Ricky Davis. Number one is that's probably the best basketball thing that he's ever accomplished. He didn't break anybody else's record. He didn't it didn't mean anything. The only person that meant something to is Ricky Davis in a meaningless game where nothing was on the line. Who cares? Who cares? It's that's why I'm I ain't care. It's just something Ricky Davis was a goof anyway, and everybody knew it. So if you could have picked 100 players who would do what he would do, I would say, yeah, it'd probably be Ricky Davis. So what? It's not like he broke Magic Johnson's triple-double record with that. He didn't. It only mattered to Ricky Davis. He wanted to be able to say he had a triple-double. Ooh. And here's something else you guys need to realize too, is that a lot of times people, athletes especially, they'll know certain records when they're in the game. Somebody will tell them, and they were like, all right, oh, I'm 3 shy of a rebound, or I'm 3 shy of like getting 10 rebounds, or I'm like Ricky Davis, oh, I only need this to get a triple-double. Hell yeah, they go for it. Sometimes not ethically, not sports ethically. Yes, they do go for it. It's just like, all right. I mean, it's not, you guys can't have it both ways. On one end, you want to take this sport so seriously. On the other end, you also are constantly saying how sports is just entertainment. Well, this is part of being entertained. Are you not entertained? Because this is what this is supposed to kind of be about. But getting back to Wilt, because everybody's big complaint was, the Heat were purposely fouling, and the number of fouls that were called, which I've seen many players say, like, most of those calls were legitimate. The Wizards just could not check him without fouling him. And it just kind of is what it is. As it turns out, the game that is held up to be the gold standard of single game excellence in terms of just points scored, turns out the same thing was happening.
Being, quote, a farce.
With 7.5 minutes to play and everybody realizing now what the stakes were, the Knicks started not quite stalling, but sort of, couple extra passes. Then they start running a weave down court, taking the ball in 94 feet from the basket. The Warriors start committing fouls of the Knicks to get the ball back quicker, to get the ball to Wilt.
And cross-court to Butcher as they eat up as much time as they can. Butcher to the circle and fouled by Rogers. Warriors figured the only way to combat the New York storm was to come out and foul the backcourt men themselves.
If somebody walked into the arena and they see the Warriors fouling and the Knicks stalling, they're going to think the Knicks are ahead by 20, not the Warriors. Whether or not it became a farce is a serious question. When the structure of the game breaks down and the team that's 20 points behind is stalling, something's weird.
There's a moment, just in terms of recreating when people began to realize we're witnessing something that we'll be talking about forever. There's the moment where Bill Campbell, the play-by-play guy on the radio broadcast, says,
"What a night. Work this night down." Chamberlain on the line. Foul shot up in the air. He has 84. 146 to 126. If you know anybody not listening, call them up. Little history you're sitting in on tonight. Rebound Luckenbill. Back to Ruckwick. Into Chamberlain. He made it. He made it. He made it. The most amazing scoring performance of all time. 100 points for the Big Dipper.
And there you have it. Wow, looks like a little unethical basketball happening in the Wilt Chamberlain game. And that still doesn't take away from me the lore of Wilt Chamberlain, because there was plenty of other just completely ridiculous things that he did. Things we will probably not see again because of the way that the game is played now. The competition level, everything has improved and evolved, even though I think Wilt's athleticism, he could fit into any era. But the reality is, like, things are different. The way the game is played is different, with more teams, or most teams, fearing injury, fearing, and even some, just purely from a sportsmanship standpoint, they think it's bad form to leave a player in, even if they're chasing a record. Bam's case, they're up by a ton, and some people thought that Bam should either be taken out, or, as some have suggested, that maybe Bam should have stopped just shy of 81 points, or stopped at 81, not actually surpass Kobe as a sign of respect. But I don't think Kobe would want that at all. And many have theorized about how Kobe would have reacted had he still been alive, had he, been able to witness what Bam did. And personally, I think Kobe would have been fine with it. I think he would have congratulated Bam and went about his day. And if you don't believe me, some intrepid social media user dug up Kobe talking about how he views when records are broken.
Understand why, I don't know if people want that or want to have this kind of contentious thing where it's, you don't want records to be broken or people to surpass. You should be happy
Right.
for the person that comes after you to be able to surpass things that you've done. I mean, like,
Right. For sure.
yeah, it's kind of juvenile, I think.
Wow, Kobe saying is kind of juvenile if you feel a way about your records being broken. Juvenile. So Laker fans, are y'all okay? Laker stands. There's fans and there's stands. So I'm going to address the stands. Laker stands. Kobe stands. Are y'all okay? See, the reason I think Kobe would have been fine with it, beyond just hearing me playing the video of him addressing exactly this, is because it doesn't change how Kobe views himself as a player. You all know that he had incredible confidence, to the point where some might even say irrational confidence. And because he held that kind of confidence in himself, somebody passing his record or records, whatever they may be, wasn't going to make Kobe think he was a lesser player than them. I'm sure he always thought he was the best player in the NBA. And so, no, that's why I don't think he was particularly bothered by his records being passed, because he knows that's part of it. He passed a lot of people's records himself. And that's just part of what happens. And you can't choose sometimes how and the manner in which those records are broken. Because it doesn't erase the fact that you did it. It doesn't erase or in any way undermine the kind of player that you are. Not at all. If anything, especially for Kobe Bryant, look, in the age where you all claim there's no defense ever being played, we see how players shoot from the three-point line. The fact that it took 20 years for this to happen is a statement in itself. And something that when it happened at the time, I wasn't sure if any player would ever do this again. But in that 20-year span, we've seen people sort of come close. Like I mentioned, Klay's 60 on 11 dribbles. Devin Booker had, 71? I think Donovan Mitchell also had some ridiculous thing. Didn't he have 72? You guys correct me if I'm wrong. Right? So, given how the game is played now and the flow of the game and the offensive wizardry that these players exhibit, in some ways, it's kind of impressive it's taken this long. And so I just think, while I do understand that's the nature of what we do here in this country, we build things up, we tear it down. And even I'm old enough to remember that when Kobe dropped his 81, there was the 50-11th conversation about this dude being a ball hog. And so it's also funny to see how that revisionist criticism happens, just in the sense of, see, a lot of y'all that are appalled by Bam's 83-point game were calling Kobe selfish at the time because of the number of shots he took. The fact that I think, the last 5-6 minutes of that game, no other Laker made a shot. I don't know if anybody else even took a shot that wasn't named Kobe Bryant. And you all called him all kinds of selfish, even though those of us who remember that game know that they needed all of Kobe's points to actually win the game. The Lakers were down by double digits at the half. He had 55 in the second just to help them win the game. So, in the scope of the game, it was pretty organic. And so it's amazing how now the selfish narrative that kind of followed Kobe for having that kind of game. Now, all of a sudden, his game is being weaponized to say like, oh, that ain't no real 80-point game. Do you guys hear yourselves? As I say, what does a real 80-point game, what does that actually look like? Since we have so much evidence of them, which we don't. Okay. So, yeah. And then, the 40 free throws, as pointed out, is used to sort of justify or highlight officiating incompetence. It's kind of crazy. Like, what? We got to be better than this. We got to be better fans than this, to where we can't be. And those of you who are parents in the chat, I know you can relate to this because I hear you guys complain about it often, is how if you have teenagers or kids, I won't even limit it to teenagers, how you have kids and kids are never impressed with anything, even though deep down, they're really impressed, but they try to be so cool and act like they ain't impressed by nothing. Like, we can't become that as sports fans. We're like, nothing impresses us, where everything has to be done a certain way. And the fact that Laker fans wound up being the centerpiece is probably the worst possible scenario for those of us who just simply want to enjoy the fact that somebody did something cool on a night that you didn't expect. Or I guess the double whammy of somebody unexpected did something cool on a night you didn't expect, right? Because now, and this is why Laker fans, and really a lot of sports fans, can be insufferable at times, is that it is what doesn't allow you to appreciate greatness is comparison, because comparison is the thief of joy. That's the old adage. And the thing is, if we did start getting into this idea, and this is what I said to Carrie when we were arguing about this on Flagrant and Funny earlier today, was like, Laker fans are so spoiled and so entitled that it not only is about winning the championship, it's how you win the championship. That matters. Majority of the league, NBA teams dying to win one championship, because there are still franchises that have never won one. And the Lakers have so many titles, and that's the way they look. That's why they look at LeBron's bubble championship the way they do. The fact that it's even known as the bubble championship tells you something. Like, we have gotten to the point where not only is an 83-point game unbearable, we don't even appreciate NBA championships. It's like, huh? And don't let me get into the weeds of how we pick and choose whose championship mattered more, and the goalpost is always moving. I was like, they won one. Literally 98% of players who enter the NBA will never win an NBA championship. And here we come, shitting on people who actually won one. I mean, I still wouldn't love the argument about the bubble championship with LeBron if that was, say, his first championship. But I guess I could sort of understand it. But that man had won multiple rings. And after he won that championship with LA, they acted like it was invisible, like it didn't exist. Like, insufferable. It counts. Yeah, it was a bizarre year for all of sports because of COVID and lockdown and all these things we were going through. So you would think a little bit of joy would mean something. Oh, I got to stop this comment right here. Past the Joint Pod says, Jordan respected his predecessors, unlike LeBron. That ain't true. And the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because obviously I'm a Pistons fan. Jordan did not respect the Bad Boys and their championship. So you, of course, I mean, if you weren't alive, I was alive when this happened and remember when it happened. And Jordan called the Pistons illegitimate champions because of their brand of basketball. So no, he didn't respect his predecessors. He didn't respect the Pistons, which is why the Pistons walked off the floor after they got swept by the Bulls when the Bulls went on to their three-peat. That's why they walked off, because Jordan disrespected the championships that they won. So, yeah. Now, Rodney T, I think that's your name, up there on the screen, or Rod, whatever. That's the kind of stuff that'll get you banned from the chat. That'll get you banned, bro. Just telling you. Watch how you talk about my Pistons. Watch how you talk about them. All right? Nevertheless, I'm certainly not telling you all to take the critique out of the sports, because critiquing sports is what makes it fun. But it can't become such the calling card that we can't even enjoy simple shit. We should be able to enjoy simple things in sports. Simple feats, great feats. We should be able to enjoy them without everything turning into a debate. And I know some of you have blamed the media for that, but didn't nobody tell y'all to follow along. Now, I realize that some of it is just the nature of what happens in sports. This was not invented by sports media, because long before the type of debate, sports debate, became really popular, people would have these kind of debates all the time amongst their friends in barbershops, bars, that kind of things. That is what is the lifeblood of sports in many respects. But it just feels like, especially in this modern day, that we spend a lot more time not enjoying sports than enjoying sports. We spend more time hate watching sports than actually watching sports, trying to connect with something that we love. And so, yeah, I mean, I just, for all the critique that happens in sports, as I said, I never thought I would see the day where 83 points would be looked at as like, It's a great accomplishment for somebody who has won an Olympic gold medal. I mean, y'all acted like Bam left his shift at the car wash and dropped 83 points on the Wizards. Like, come on, guys. All right, I'm about to get out of here, but before I do, I'll take a few more of you guys' comments. I've been trying to get to as many of them as possible. May not have responded to all of them, but at least got to a point where I showcased them so other people could respond as well. So yeah, I'll get to some of them. First one I see, after my long, beautiful soliloquy, it's straight garbage. Well, who pissed in your cornflakes, Ron? Sorry. They act like he dropped 83 on people who watch. I mean, that's what I'm saying. He didn't do this at 24-hour fitness. Like, he did this in a legitimate, game. Asia had been having fun on Threads. Yes, she has. That, by the way, that was a super special moment to see those two together. They did a joint press conference afterwards, which I thought was really very, I don't know whose idea that was, but it was wonderful to see Bam and Asia share that moment. Again, you have the best player in the world, and Asia Wilson for the women, who also has the single game scoring record in the WNBA. She dropped 53 in a game. And she joked last night on Threads that how now she doesn't have the most points in a game in the house. And I was just like, well, you just got to drop 90 now. That's got to be the new directive. But it was great to see them have their moment. And like all of America, everybody is, and I don't like to get into people's fertility business, but I think it's safe to say that all of America is rooting for these two to have children, because I know this much is, if I were a college coach, these two have children, I'm showing up at the hospital getting a letter of intent signed. Just me. Because ain't no way between the 7-footer, two of the best basketball players in the world. Jesus. That was crazy. All right, getting to a few more comments. All right, thank you. Love your journalism. It broke down. I mean, more opinion than anything, but I appreciate everything. I appreciate the compliment, nevertheless. Kobe would have loved Bam because of the work he put into become better and expand his game. listen, you know, and that too deserves its own credit. It's like Bam has notably been an inconsistent offensive player. We have seen certainly nothing like this. He's not necessarily known as being a scorer, more of a defensive player, and somebody who's a great passer as well. And so I think a lot of people were just surprised to see this kind of output from this player. And you know, as I said before, I think that's part of the reason why this generated as much or became as polarizing as it did. Because if this were another player that was considered to be in that tier of player, that top tier, I don't think a lot of people would be complaining the way they are. You know how many players can make, this is from Michael Walker. You know how many players can't make 36 free throws with 100 tries, especially a big man? Give Bam his dap. That is also true. Yes, many of you have noted how many times he went to the line, which is twice as many times as Kobe went when he had his 81. But he still got to make them. Like, geez, he still has to make them. You know, it is, that in itself deserves some credit. All right, love it for Bam, but this was indicative of the joke the NBA has become. Again, with NBA fans, I don't know if these are fans or casual fans or whatever, but it's amazing how much of the year is consumed by the narrative that the NBA sucks. And what happens every year, guys? Every year, then we get to the playoffs, and all anybody talks about is how great the NBA is. It's like, yeah, and in this way, I feel as if ring culture, everything being about winning a ring, and yes, that's ultimately the goal, but because ring culture is so strong, in many ways, it's devalued the regular season. So during the regular season, people treat the games like they don't matter. I've had many an argument with NBA fans when talking about the regular season MVP versus the finals MVP. One of those people being my husband. We argue about this all the time. He does not think the regular season, he essentially thinks the regular season MVP is meaningless. And as I continue to argue and tell him, there's a difference between you becoming the finals MVP because it's you being the best player on the court, on the floor against the team you're trying to beat for a championship, and you versus, 20 plus other teams and trying to establish yourself as the best player. When you're the regular season MVP, it's you versus everybody. Finals MVP is you versus your finals opponent. That's why there needs to be 2 awards. So at any rate, yeah. So this devaluing of the NBA regular season of anything that's not related to the ring, I think has led to people during the regular season carrying this narrative that the NBA is terrible. I saw, there's always this argument about what's better, NBA or college. To be honest, it is really hard for me to watch college ball on most nights. Some nights it's good. I think most nights, college basketball, not the best to watch. So, yeah. And Seville, by the way, I would not say that. But, his issue with the regular season MVP is that the right person doesn't win it. And, yeah, there have been years where that hasn't happened. Immediately it comes to mind. Jordan, the year they gave it to Karl Malone, Jordan could have been MVP practically almost, most of his career because of the type of player that he was. They gave it to Karl Malone. I think that was the year that Utah actually finished with the best record in the league, which is why Karl Malone won it. But it's funny how people bring up that, but they never bring up Barkley. Barkley, who definitely earned MVP the year that he won it. Barkley was balling. Phoenix had the best record in the league. MJ, still the best player in the world. But nobody ever says Barkley didn't deserve the MVP. Only Karl Malone. And I've often wondered why that is. If that's the continual narrative that Jordan should have won it. But you never have that should have won it argument with Barkley. And so, anywho, that's his sort of issue with the regular season MVP versus the finals MVP. Anyway, really good. I'm glad that you all join me for Politics Live. Again, coming to you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Usually I do it at some point after I finish taping Flagrant and Funny. As I said, make sure you definitely want to watch or download today's episode. If you don't laugh, that's a you problem. Because when I tell you we were cutting up. Me and Carrie Champion. Make sure you like, subscribe to Flagrant and Funny, which is also on YouTube. Like and subscribe to this page. I appreciate you all joining me on another episode of Politics Live. I have more news that I want to announce in the next Politics Live about something pretty special coming down the pike. Really appreciate y'all joining me. Thanks for all your comments. Appreciate you. See you soon. Enjoy the rest of your day. And try not to get on nobody's nerves, really. And find some joy in your life. Jesus, y'all out here hating on 80-point games. Get you some joy today. See y'all later.